Men like Wigglesworth, Finney, Howells, Booth, names that thunder through revival history, men who shook nations, men who carried the fire of God. But behind every man who changed history stood a woman who paid a price few ever heard about. Lydia Finney prayed her husband into purpose, then walked through years of silent suffering. Polly Wigglesworth prayed through the night, while Smith healed multitudes until her own strength failed. Lizzie Howells left her infant son behind to obey the call of God to Africa. Catherine Booth built the Salvation Army while raising 8 children and fighting for a woman's right to preach. These women didn't just support revival, they bled for it. This is their story. Before we begin, if you believe women were vital to the history of revival, type, "I believe women are important." History remembers the men, the preachers, the revivalists, the ones who stood on platforms and shook nations. But revival never happens without sacrifice. And often, the greatest sacrifice was made by women standing in the shadows. They carried the unseen fire. They kept the prayer altars burning when no one was watching. They fought invisible battles while history wrote someone else's name. Today, we pull back the curtain on 4 women who carried a fire of their own. Women who prayed, who fought, who surrendered everything so the gospel could spread. Their names may be unfamiliar, but their stories are unforgettable. Their lessons are eternal. Let's meet them. Catherine Booth, the voice that refused to be silent. Catherine Mumford was born in 1829 in England, frail, sickly, and often confined to her bed. While other children played outside, she lived among books and prayer. Her body was weak, but her mind was fierce. She devoured scripture and theology, reading books most women of her era were never allowed to touch. A dangerous question formed in her heart. If God gives a woman a word, who says she cannot preach it? In 1855, she married William Booth, a man burning with passion for the lost. He thundered in the streets. She whispered wisdom behind the scenes. While William battled the poverty of London on the front lines, Catherine organized meetings, managed funds, trained leaders, and wrote powerful defenses for women in ministry. Victorian England mocked her, rejected her, tried to silence her. But she answered simply, "If God has called me, who shall forbid me?" In 1860, when a preacher collapsed mid-sermon, Catherine stood and spoke. And when she did, heaven moved. That moment ignited a movement. She preached holiness, mercy, and justice across Britain. At home, she raised 8 children, training them not just for life, but for mission. Cancer ravaged her body in her final years, but it never touched her fire. From her sickbed, she still guided the growing Salvation Army. When she died in 1890, over 36,000 people lined the streets of London. William Booth wept and said, "She was the best woman I ever knew, and the best man too." Lesson 1. God uses those the world overlooks. Fire doesn't need a platform, only surrender. Polly Wigglesworth, the intercessor behind the miracles. Mary Jane Featherstone, called Polly, grew up poor and joined the Salvation Army as a young woman, preaching in the streets and rescuing the broken. Then she met a rough, stubborn plumber named Smith Wigglesworth. Her friends warned her he was difficult and uneducated, but Polly saw destiny beneath the dirt. They married in 1882. It was not a fairy tale. Smith had a temper. Pride often clashed with her quiet strength. But Polly never stopped praying for him. She taught him to read using the Bible, word by word, by the fireplace each night. Those humble lessons became the foundation of one of the greatest healing ministries in history. As Smith's ministry exploded and miracles followed, few knew every miracle stood on the prayers of a woman hidden in the shadows. Polly prayed through the night, whispered names, fastened heaven to earth. But intercession costs. Years of fasting and midnight prayer drained her body. One night, when Smith returned from preaching, she was too weak to rise. He begged her to rest. She smiled and said, "I can't stop now. Heaven is moving." In 1913, she collapsed and died suddenly. Smith stood at her grave and wept, saying, "I'm finished." Then the Spirit whispered, "Only believe." From that day forward, Smith carried her fire within him. He later said, "My wife's prayers were the secret to everything. I was the mouthpiece. She was the power." Lesson 2. Behind every visible move of God is an invisible sacrifice. Lydia Finney, the furnace of hidden faith. Before Charles Finney shook America with revival, he was a skeptical lawyer who mocked Christianity. Then came Lydia Andrews. She prayed for him long before he believed. In 1821, in the woods of New York, conviction fell on Charles Finney, and he walked out transformed. 2 years later, Lydia became his wife. For 23 years, she lived inside the chaos of revival, raising 5 children, managing the home, and hosting endless visitors. Behind the scenes, she fought her own unseen war. Lonely nights, constant pressure, depression. In her letters, she confessed feeling forgotten, yet still held by God. While Charles faced public battles, Lydia carried private ones. Every soul saved added weight to her shoulders. Yet even in weakness, she built strength into others. In 1834, she helped found the New York Female Moral Reform Society, confronting prostitution and exploitation when women had no voice. Neighbors recalled hearing her sing hymns late into the night, her lamp still burning when others slept. She died in 1847 at only 43 years old. Charles later wrote, "She taught me my greatest lessons: patience, endurance, and faith." Lesson 3. Revival begins in secret places. Lizzie Howells, the mother who gave up her child for the nations. Lizzie grew up in the fire of the Welsh revival and married Rees Howells in 1910. Together, they burned with intercession and world missions. Then God asked for the unthinkable. "Give me your son. Go to Africa." Night after night, they wept and prayed. Could God really ask a mother to leave her only child? At last, Lizzie surrendered and whispered, "I'll go, even if my heart breaks." They left Samuel in Wales and sailed for Africa. For 8 years, they labored among disease, danger, and poverty, yet miracles followed. Later, they founded the Bible College of Wales, a global furnace of intercession. During World War II, students prayed for battles and leaders by name, and impossible victories followed. Yet Lizzie's private furnace never cooled. She often sat alone holding her son's photograph, the child she surrendered for souls she would never meet. Lesson 4. Some intercessors carry wounds that never heal, yet they turn pain into prayer that reshapes the world. Catherine Booth, Polly Wigglesworth, Lydia Finney, Lizzie Howells. 4 women, 4 furnaces, 4 hidden fires. History remembers the men, but these women carried the flame just as fiercely. They prayed, they suffered, they gave everything. Catherine showed us God uses the overlooked. Polly revealed the power of unseen intercession. Lydia proved revival is sustained in silence. Lizzie reminded us that obedience sometimes costs everything. Now it's your turn. Which of these women should we feature in a full documentary next? Type your choice below.